For better or for worse, we are no longer blinded to the pain. And I know exactly what came to my mind when I pulled this card. Definitely those island files, which I think are pressing on our collective minds right now. And I'll just give a trigger warning up front. We're going to be talking about coming to terms with truth, with no longer being in denial. Um, so some of those topics might come up that are permeating the macrosphere right now. But so this first card is card 13, and I thought it was really interesting. This little, I guess, necklace of bees she's wearing reminded me of, I think it's, what is it, Hellraiser? But they open the mouth and all the bees come out. I can't remember. But it's like no longer being consumed by the hive mind. But that's a very painful process, breaking down conditioning and the filter by which you viewed the world up until now. So we'll get another card here and see if we can dig down a little bit more into what is coming to the surface for us. Because it's probably a lot. I know I've been having a tough time, actually probably for the past few weeks or so. Just so much going on. And you try your best to compartmentalize and stay informed, and it's a really delicate dance. Because those files, the parts that we got, they're worse than I thought they could be. So imagine like what we're not seeing. What are we coming to terms with here? No longer in denial about. And this is the Dark Mirror Oracle. Forgetting oneself. Okay. Getting caught up in I don't want to necessarily say the mob mentality, but it can definitely manifest that way. Maybe we are coming to terms with the fact that we did forget ourselves. It's realizing that somebody was telling the truth the whole time and they weren't believed. And maybe that is a departure from your core values. So how did that happen? It's getting down to the root of things, because I think shame is a really tricky emotion to navigate. And in order to learn, we have to get past that urge of shaming ourselves and shaming others for our mistakes. We have to acknowledge them. And if we're really putting in concerted, self-driven effort towards improving, we need spaces to where we can learn and utilize those lessons. Like how do I learn from previous mistakes and then use those for good, But tell me more about forgetting oneself. Because I think it was somebody from the UK, like an open apology to victims that weren't believed, and for somebody that was named in those files, that they were given some sort of high position of authority, and that victims are having to relive this like in broad daylight all over again. And I have mixed feelings about that. because apologies have never changed anything I've ever gone through. And they're a little lost on deaf ears to me, depending on who it's coming from and the juncture at which it arrives. Like, if an apology doesn't arrive until after there are consequences, I don't care. I don't care how sorry that person is. Maybe that's harsh, maybe that's cold, but if you had to have consequences to be sorry, like, I don't really believe you. Or at least I'm not willing to listen, at a minimum. But forgetting oneself, and on the other side of that table, maybe that person apologizing, you know, maybe they forgot themselves. The Fool. Yeah. So maybe they did forget themselves and made hasty judgment calls. You know, it really never ceases to amaze me in the worst way how people fail to realize, like, the likelihood of the vulnerable party abusing a person with power. It's low. It's not impossible, but it's low. So in a he said, she said situation, why would you assume the side least likely to be the victim? I don't know. But the Fool here, I'm not completely getting that this is a new beginning, but it's more pointing out, like, the foolishness of the actions and the assumptions, not believing victims when they come forward because of the high cost that carries. It's being guilty until proven innocent. No matter what the legal system says and whatnot, I'm talking about, like, the court of public opinion. Coming forward is its own trauma, and it doesn't have to be that way. You can make improvements in the system to where this isn't traumatic. But tell me more about the Fool. Because it could be a new beginning for the person learning the lesson. You know, they can learn their lesson without you having to accept their apology. Because that lesson is theirs to learn. You don't even need to hear the apology. That's like anybody that has done the 12-step thing. You know, the making amends step is only if it won't cause additional harm. Lessons can be learned without, like, closure. I think closure is a myth. What do you have? 3. I'll take those. But Temperance. Ooh, that might be a challenge right now. An understandable one. 3 of Pentacles. And the Empress in reverse. Okay. And this is the Daydream Tarot. So Temperance, patience, which might be really challenging. Because the frustration of, like, you know, I tried to talk to you. Like, I came forward. I told you all of these things. And now that you have a dead guy's emails, now you're on my side? Like, the fury that those type of situations stir up is completely valid. And I think it's very audacious of people to tell someone who's been through something horrendous the gradient to which their reaction is appropriate. Like, they're the ones that were in it. And especially, like, there's all these differences between men and women, and the systemic violence that each demographic is facing, and it's very layered. But Three of Pentacles, that's a group normally, but this is just one person sitting staring at the wall. I'm getting futility from that, you know? Because I remember trying to report before when I was younger. Like when I was a teenager, and just the terrible things that were said to me by medical staff. That, like, what do you expect when you're wearing that, or when you're dressed like that? I was wearing Dickies and a tank top. I was, like, on my way to work. Because we had those weird, like, uniform shirts, you know? I didn't have it on yet. But what a terrible thing to say to someone who's in a vulnerable position and trying to come forward, trying to get justice, trying to get people to believe you. It's like trying to climb a wall with no cracks. And the Empress in reverse, to me, that's reinforcing the systems that we're supposed to be able to count on and that fail us every day in plain view. And they get to remain in power. Think of all the women that end up in, like, psychiatric facilities, you know, having their trauma pathologized. And how many people, how many survivors are failed by complex PTSD not being in the DSM-5, but it is in the ICD-11. Like, we know that condition exists, and the longer it stays out of our diagnostic manual, the longer treatments aren't being assessed, developed, and things like that. And God knows how many other disorders and such conditions are in that same position. That it's just the documentation is outdated, and then doctors are using that to treat. Because there's no guarantee they're up to date on not only our research, but across the pond, you know, ensuring that everything is equal. Let's get one of these here. Oh, that was quick. These are the elemental energies. We've got, oh, what is this word? Vibrissae of vitality? Vibrissae? Never heard that. Feel the vibrissae of vitality, tuning into the energetic pulses that sustain life force, but it came out reversed. So maybe a little bit of hermit mode right now. Because if you're dealing with anything of this nature, of trying to come forward and talk to somebody and they didn't believe you and now they know you're right and they want to apologize, something like that, you might need some space. And your feelings, and I even want to say reactions, are all completely valid. Not everybody's going to feel that way. And some people have power over you, you know, if it's like a work situation or something like that. And not that it's fair, but the situation might go more smoothly with a calmer head. So you kind of want to tune out the ambient vibe. Because it's tense right now. Understandably so. over here on the left. So somebody forgot themselves, their values. What was behind that? What was the driving factor? I guess behind which side was believed? Because it's like you took this blindfold off. Or were willing to speak up and try and get the blindfold off other people. You might not have all the information though, like you might not know what was said in rooms you weren't in to defend yourself in. So what was the driving force behind the not being believed? And I mean, I think there's the obvious ones, you know, the misogyny, discrimination, maybe you're just an other. People don't like others. They fear what they don't understand, which I'm not entirely sure why. Like, whatever happened to curiosity? I feel like it's a kind of a lost art, you know? Homogeny is a bit boring. How do you learn new things, get new experiences? Envious gluttony. Ugh. This is one of the heavier cards in this deck. Number 9. It's got this wicked, like, death shaman thing going on. I think that's an alligator skull. But they look gaunt. Like the life's been taken from them. And what just came to mind was, like, energy vampire, if you've heard that term. There's also, like, emotional vampire. Like, any attention is good attention. Like, that's just the goal. So the driving force behind you or someone not being believed. Envious gluttony. It's an interesting, like, adjective to have up front on that. Tell me more about envious gluttony. Actually, I want to read the book. A man has rotting, sickly skin and yellow eyes. He dresses in tatters, and sticky blood runs down his chin. He has clawed feet and a crown of a skeleton alligator jaw. The upper part on his head, the lower part on his chest, like a gaping mouth. There is hunger sleeping just under the surface, like an animal lurking. Just skimming the larger part here. Yeah, this is talking about a parasitic monster. It's like just an endless consumption. It's kind of bringing to mind Full Metal Alchemist, if you've seen that. I'm partial to Brotherhood. But I feel like if envy and gluttony were the same being, which I think envy can kind of do that. 9 of Cups. Wish fulfillment. Looks like these middle ones at a minimum are cracked though. Could just be the designs. So, wish fulfillment. Wish fulfillment from envious gluttony. It's just like the false god of money is what's coming to mind. Or winning at all costs. Because if you, the truth teller, are trying to speak up, the other party can't have that, because then they lose their position of power. They lose the means by which they can siphon resources and power and attention and things like that. It's like being consumed by positional authority. Not realizing that that authority, like true authority, comes from within, not from the title you hold or the possessions that you have. And yes, like powerful people can do violent things and take lives, and they're still weak. Those are still weak people, because in order to win, they had to end someone's life. Like, they couldn't step to that person, step to their truth. And I think that artwork, that gaunt, nearly skeletal figure, just shows the endless pit and well that the pursuit of, I guess, false idols, if you will, like money and power and things like that, those things that can be taken away in a heartbeat, what that does to you, what that does to your soul. Like the Dark Crystal. Ace of Pentacles in reverse. And this has always given me Wizard of Oz vibes, you know, Yellow Brick Road. But a non-starter, an opportunity that didn't get off the ground. And I mean, if we're running in line with the Epstein files, the lies didn't last. Might have worked temporarily, but they didn't last ultimately. And the dice roll that I got earlier was Aquarius, Mercury, and the third house. And Mercury is in Aquarius going into Pisces right now, I'm pretty sure. Third house, communication. So it's like unique ways of, innovative ways of the message getting out. It's how the lies didn't last. And innovation doesn't necessarily have to mean like super intelligent or even intentional. You know, like I think the first iteration that we got of those files, it was redacted with like the free Adobe version or something, and people were able to like copy and paste into a Word document and get the text from what was supposed to be redacted. That is innovative, but on the side of the recipient. You know, they're ensuring that all information, for better or for worse, gets out. So maybe there's something like that going on in your situation. Like if this person has all this power, right? All this authority, but they have a wish fulfillment that didn't come to fruition, for why? Like, why didn't they get their way? Probably because they did something wrong. Which is not always the case, you know. Good things happen to bad people. Bad things happen to good people. Ten of Swords, yeah. My favorite tarot card. Only way from rock bottom is up, and now I have all the swords. Look, he's looking out into like a sunrise. Could be a sunset, but there's light out yonder across that water. It's like across those emotions, you know, like the Six of Swords. Better days are ahead, but it's going to be a battle to get there. I'm almost getting like a walk of shame vibe here, like trying to shame victims into silence through, I don't know, exposing their secrets, exposing things they might be embarrassed or ashamed about, you know, trying to shut them up. Maybe that's the wish fulfillment that didn't come true. Something was done, like a smear campaign or something, to try and shame you into silence, but it didn't work. And now there's questions like, hey, wait a minute, if what you were saying was true, why are they fine? Like, why are they unfazed? And maybe you've gotten to that point where people are going to judge you either way, and you're just coming to terms with that, you know. And, you know, where I sit on that is like, you know, if you're going to judge me and you're going to be a jerk to me even when I'm trying, and when I'm trying to, you know, fit in and be amenable and whatnot, why would I continue trying? Because that's just a waste of energy. Like, I'm not going to waste my time masking if you don't like me anyway. Like, screw off. I've only got so much battery per day. If you show me that it's an unwise investment to distribute that to you, I will not. Tell me more about this envious gluttony. I really like that Ten of Swords card, that art. Very, like, battle ready, but optimistic. Oh, come on. Why so quiet now? The other one was so quick. Let's take in the top one. Flame of Purification. Pass through the flame of purification, releasing old energies and making way for the new. I feel like that goes well with this Ten of Swords, because that's kind of like, well, if you don't like me, then, like, why try? You know? And I posted a picture on my Instagram today of Sekhmet. She is a flame of purification, you know, that healing war force, that healing destructive force. And she was a way for the leader, for Ra, to realize the error of his ways, of like the heights of his anger and disproportionate power between what he had available to him versus the people he was upset with. And I don't think anybody told him that he was overreacting. Like, he had to come to that conclusion on his own, that he was essentially abusing his power by way of sending Sekhmet to the earth. So on the right here, I'm kind of stuck on that abuse of power. Was there an abuse of power? I think there was, but tell me more about that. Was there like an abuse of power for this smear campaign, for this walk of shame? Because that kind of has to be a component. An abuse of something. It can be even an abuse of knowledge. You know, if you've confided in someone and then you guys get into a conflict or something, they turn around and use it against you, they weaponize it, that's an abuse of power. Because it's not just the victim that gets groomed, it's everybody around both parties that end up getting groomed. And these dynamics are so intricate and cruel and vile, they're hard to believe. And so people kind of default to like, oh, the victim's crazy. Like, what do you think made me that way? People being nice to me? Definitely not. I don't know. Some people, I've noticed, with advanced degrees, they get so narrowed in on their scope, if they're not like consciously pulling their head up to the horizon and ensuring that like they're keeping a perspective on things. It's like over specialization breeds in weakness. We've got revenge and atonement. More swords. Okay. Revenge is in reverse and atonement is upright. How many is that? 10. Yeah, 10 swords. And she's got 2. But this would be the abuse of power. So this almost feels like a lamb being led to slaughter in a way. Like you would be made an example of for speaking up. You know, all those swords in your back. And the revenge in reverse. That's giving me like, this hurts me more than it hurts you. Which, false. I can't quite think of the word that I'm looking for. But it's like knowing someone is innocent and watching them get flogged. Or this could be you not reacting to any of these swords put in your back. That could be what exposes like this wish fulfillment not being fulfilled. The wish fulfillment would be, you know, that you are made an example of for speaking up. Like, how dare you tell people what I did to you? You know, that sort of thing. And but by your non-reaction, you're not taking revenge for whatever was done to try and silence you. Now there's questions. Like, wait, why didn't this person react? If they're this conniving, evil, plotting, whatever, why did they just take it? Take the bottom one. Judgment. In reverse. So the judgment that was to befall you didn't. Because you didn't react. She's very calm. All things considered. Like, how is that possible? That could just be you walking in your truth. Like, you know the truth, you spoke the truth, you don't feel the need to defend yourself. And yeah, High Priestess. The unseen. And the Wheel of Fortune. And this is my Nemesis card. Nemesis, like the Greek goddess. And quite a few legends with like Agamemnon and Narcissus. But Nemesis is the force that rebalances. That when things, like when authority and power become entitlement, she then is the corrective force of, like, for example, she led Narcissus to the river, to where ultimately the Narcissus flower came from, if you're familiar with that myth. But it's like seeing the unseen, or having trust in your paradigm, in spirit, in yourself, however you interpret. Could just be having trust in the truth, that the truth will prevail. And the wheel will turn in your favor. Turn to exposure. And it is also the celestial backdrop for exposure right now. The Saturn and Neptune conjunction, that's one of the signatures, is exposure. So the judgment never befell you. And maybe you've connected with a faith practice, and you just have that trust in the mechanics of the universe and the higher power, that you've done the right thing. It's kind of hard to navigate situations like this, being aware of, like, the just world fallacy. You know, it can be so frustrating to know you've done everything right, and then you get the wrong result. And it sucks. That could be some of the pain that is coming off, or the wool that's coming off the eyes. Maybe of you or of other people involved. They're really seeing this for the first time. The burden that's put on victims, all these swords in their back, to come forward and to talk about these terrible, terrible things, and then not be believed until we get a dead guy's emails. Like, there's how many people that have come forward about this? It's a difficult reckoning. That's kind of the brilliance of Nemesis, is that force of getting all of the chess pieces into place, or as needed, just flipping the whole whole board. But where is this walk of atonement taking us? And it's given me that shame walk from Game of Thrones with Cersei. And I'm pretty sure Cersei and Nemesis have some involvement. I can't remember though. But like Cersei, the witch from the Odyssey. I think she's a nymph. She captured Odysseus for like a year. He was trapped on that island. Something like that. But where is this walk of atonement headed? Oh, I almost forgot that. Something overlooked? Maybe that's being revealed in this. Something got overlooked. And that could be either the Wheel of Fortune, Nemesis, however you want to look at that. But that could be why that presence is coming forward, is to move the chess pieces into the right place for whatever was overlooked to now be seen, you know. Could be the celestial weather digging that up, you know, Saturn and Neptune. Not quite. There we go. Choral communion. Commune with the choral, absorbing its patient and collaborative energy for collective growth. But it came out reversed. And what just came to mind was like how coral bleaches. And that's not good. I think that's like sun exposure, heat exposure. So maybe something was so obvious. Because something that colorful, bleaching and changing and going like monochrome, losing the life out of it. Like, how would that not be an obvious detail in whatever you're dealing with? Because if you've ever dealt with any kind of abusive situation, dissociation and whatnot, you know what that static is like in your mind, and how you just kind of become a shell walking through your life. And it's almost like watching your life happen, not actually being present for it. It's like a degree removed. Kind of like a lucid dream in a way. But you're not your normal, like, engaged, energetic, chipper self. You know, it's going to be a departure from how you normally are if you're dealing with dissociation. That's kind of what I'm getting from that, like, coral bleaching analogy. It's like you were walking through this environment, doing this walk of atonement with 10 swords in your back, and people were just like, not my problem, not happening to me, swords aren't in my back, as long as it's not me. So where is this headed? Nope. Almost. Thinking about it. Where are we headed after this walk of atonement? Ooh. Is that 2? We came out sideways. So in motion, the child I was meant to be, and sacrifice. Oh, that's a powerful combination. It's giving me Joan of Arc for sure. And like inner child work. Oh, and it's cards 7 and 8. 8, 7. It's the order that I picked it up in. So a countdown. So it's like the innocence that it cost you to speak up, that sacrifice. We're coming to the outcome, like the ROI of what it was supposed to be. You know, because there's, of course, the, on one hand, speaking up because it's the right thing, but it's also speaking up to get justice for you, for the person who got harmed. And that, I think that's why apologies bother me so much. You know, circle back to the beginning, that apologies don't change what I've been through. It's like knowing, how do I put this? Because I get really frustrated when I hear things like, we co-create every single experience that we have and whatnot. I don't share that belief. Mostly because I don't believe in omni qualities, like omniscience, omnipotence, things like that. And I do believe in free will. So that means I'm going to be subject to other people's free will, even if I didn't agree to it. You know, that wasn't one of the lessons I came into this life to learn. But the speaking up, that's what shows, I think, the child I was meant to be. That's showing the wrong that you weren't supposed to experience. And it's a huge sacrifice. I don't think people realize how hard it is to speak up. Because you're not only having to face the trauma itself again, but it's the not being helped by the systems that you're supposed to be dependent on, or to be able to depend on, but seeing the true colors of the people around you, of like, are you sure you're not misremembering things? Are you sure that's how it went? Like the, benefits from that. From you doubting someone who's coming forward. Like, just hear them out, you know? We've got the Ace of Cups here. And this one's always been interesting to me, because look how frazzled he looks. That's the, if someone comes to you, make a hot beverage. Sit down with them and hear what they have to say. Like, hold on to the, like, I'm not sure, like, hear everything. Because I think I saw a statistic that it's like 2% of assault allegations are false, which means 98% are true. How many of that 98% do you think got believed? And I also don't think that 2% is accurate. I think it's more like 0.000 something. Because last time I looked at that, it was like over the course of 5 years, there were like 130 false assault allegations as compared to like 5 million assaults per day. Something like that. Something insane. But tell me more about the sacrifice and the child I was meant to be. Knight of Pentacles, but in reverse. So something's happening quickly. Someone's gonna see this quickly. Finally actually see that you weren't meant to have all those swords in your back. And that means true healing. Well, let me rephrase. Because you don't need other people to believe you to heal. I'm a firm believer in that. Because your healing, it's an internal process, We don't want to give too much power out to an external force. But man, it does not hurt to be validated. It does not hurt to be heard. And to give people a safe space and platform and such to open up and to talk about their experiences. And the more we hear people out about what they've been through with an open heart, an open mind, with curiosity, we can pull the wool back off of these manipulation techniques. We all benefit from believing victims. And victims is not a dirty word. They have been victimized. And by people, not by monsters, not by demons, by people making choices. And the sooner we all get on the same page about that, the better off we're all gonna be. It's like a rising tide raises all ships. This is a very, very painful time for a lot of people. But if handled right, I think some good can come of it. And we've got the Nine of Wands in reverse and Eight of Swords. So Nine of Wands is in reverse. In this context, I'm interpreting that as, because a Nine of Wands upright can be like you're ready to fight anybody that gets near your fence, very defensive. This could be laying your arms down, and seeing the gaslighting for what it is. You know, Eight of Swords is my gaslighting card. And I actually don't see, kind of hard to tell because she's looking away, but I don't really see a blindfold. They're just looking into the dark. Oh, maybe there is a blindfold. It's hard to see. And gold roses, it looks like. But yeah, laying down arms, laying down that defensiveness. And actually seeing the manipulation for what it is. For how you were painted out to be this, I don't know, riffraff, Jezebel, whatever. Whatever was done to make you look bad and the person who's doing the bad thing look good. Twofold process. And we've got eternal elements. Ooh, and a group of women. Maybe this is a sign to take up some witchcraft, if you feel the need. We've got acknowledge the eternal dance of the elements, understanding their timeless influence on your journey. I'm actually kind of getting like witchcraft through the ages, you know, understanding how the, you know, things like the witch trials and satanic panic of the 80s and things like that, how those mob mentalities, in a lot of cases, really negatively target women. They also target, you know, other people. Like the satanic panic was affecting people who play Dungeons and Dragons, you know. And I think, who was it? Was it Reagan? His wife consulted an astrologer, because this was around the fall of the Berlin Wall. And then that was like, oh, the occult has infiltrated the highest office in the land, and, you know, spiritual crisis and whatnot. I don't think the Catholic Church has astrologers. I think they have astronomers, though. But just knowing, or even maybe it's a call to look up various things in history, like Joan of Arc, how she was persecuted, or how any other, you know, significant figures have been persecuted throughout the years. And could be a call for deity work, you know, maybe to work with Nemesis. Could be taking a walk and getting in touch with nature. I've always found the sound of running water to be particularly calming. So maybe if you can find a river or a creek or something to, I don't know, have a sit by or walk by, depending on if there's a trail running along it. But knowing that things are in motion, and these all seem to be very cyclical in nature. And we finally, I think, reached an era where victims can fight back with proof in a way that we couldn't before. You know, I talked about on a previous reading, people are using those like recording glasses to make unknown videos of women for bad things. How can we use those technologies for good? You know, that's the Aquarian innovative way of ensuring that information gets out. And I know those glasses are expensive, but just thinking of different ways to tell the truth as it needs to be told, you know, and be mindful of laws and such. Because I don't know with those recording glasses, like the legality of that. Seems like you're getting into really like tricky territory doing that, but we'll get a song here. Oh, and I painted a new rock. This little addition. It's like the little, I don't know if the camera can actually pick up the contrast there, but it's painted like a sweetheart candy. I've always loved painted rocks since I was a kid, and now I finally get the chance to do that as an adult. Really enjoy it. No shit! Nemesis! There we go. Been jibber-jabbering about her. My favorite version of this song is the live one from the 2016 Walkin' Festival. She's got like the blue hair and whatnot. So good. But that synchronicity, that is incredible. Nemesis. Here's your sign. If you do any sort of deity work, maybe she is calling to you. I know the typical veneration for her is to not ask for favor. It's to thank her for what she's already done. It actually, my understanding is, can be a little counterproductive if you ask her for favor that's not looked highly on. Like, she has it under control. You know? So, listen to some heavy metal, meditate, walk in the park, do whatever works for you and your practice. Manage that nervous system. There's a lot of information being bombarded at us right now. And if you need a break, there is no shame in that. So, overall, I hope this helps. I hope this resonates. And if it doesn't, I hope the next one does. Thank you so much.